Okay, this is Dr. Ariel Policano with the Genius Insight. This is our weekly support class, and I'm so happy that you've joined us, or perhaps you're listening to us on the recording. It's my pleasure to be with you every week. This class is free, and it is recorded and available on my YouTube channel. It's a way that we have a very active community that we support, and we're really happy that you're here. You can ask questions or participate in any way that's meaningful for you. We're just so happy that you're joining us and that you're part of our active community. So with that, we got a call from a user about her mother, and she had, I'm trying to remember the date of birth here. She had a major back surgery. She's in her, I think, her 70s. She had a major back surgery, all went well, and now is in rehab. Her muscles have to get strong. She now has to learn to walk on her own. She's in a lot of pain, and she has a wound surgery that she's trying to heal. What is your suggestions on the biofeedback? All right, so we're going to get to this. Thanks again for being here and being part of our class today. Just give me a moment on the sound to adjust it. There we go. Okay. All right. So, any questions, you guys? Any reports, any crashing that you want to share with us? Oh, let me adjust this. There we go. Just trying to see. Yeah, so we're in our late 70s, I think is correct. All right, so let's see how you guys are doing. Roger says, good morning. You guys, are there any reports of any crashing going on? Did anybody have any issue? And make sure you're updated to the latest version of iOS. That's really the important thing. Yes, we know. Okay, we know there's no voice pattern. That had to come out temporarily for another issue they're working on. But I just want to know if anybody's being popped out of the program. That's the most important thing for us to focus on. Also, remember in the new year that we're going to be starting not next week, but the week after that at 10 a.m. So it's going to be 1 hour later, not next week, but the week after that. So if you're coming to this class in 2019, it will be occurring 1 hour later. So please set your schedule, set your calendar, and all of that good stuff accordingly. All right. So this is when you're starting a case, you want to look up and down everything on your Genius to see what is out of balance, what is in red, what is in blue, and then go from there. So what is in red, what is in blue for this woman? It's interesting that I see chemical sensitivities because I just had another client who just got out of the hospital, and they also had a lot of chemical sensitivity. So this woman just had back surgery, so she was in the hospital. Usually that's where back surgery takes place. And so she's coming out with a lot of chemicals. And that's interesting that pesticides comes up. That's really weird. But maybe there's a lot of some type of disinfectant spraying that's showing up as something similar. You know, one thing that really makes you talented in biofeedback is learning to read between the lines. Learning to read between the lines, because not everything in biofeedback is literal. You have to look for the meaning behind the meaning in order to understand everything that's going on in biofeedback. So that's really important. We also have some perfume. So if Brenda's mother is wearing any type of perfume or scent, I would recommend, no longer doing that. There's a lot of volatile organic compounds that happen. Okay. There's a lot of VOCs that happen inside of the perfume. So we want to avoid them if at all possible. All right. So So that's what you're looking for. In the beginning, you're an investigator. You're asking, what is here? What am I observing? Then we look at body systems. Okay, so we know that she had a surgery. We know that she's learning to walk again. So what does that tell us? Something about the nervous system, right? We know that the nervous system is involved. So we want to make sure that we include it and maybe even add in the nerve tonifying program, which we'll look at. That's an additional add-on that many of you have. So we'll look at that as well. All right, so 665 is not that high. Now I look at everything above 600 and everything below 200. And I sort of just try to figure out if it seems like that is something that I need to know about, something that's relevant. Lymphatic is probably relevant. Muscular is very relevant, right? Because she had basically had back surgery and she's trying to recover. So that's another thing to consider. So the thing is, even if you think you don't know a lot about medicine and healing, you can still come to a lot of conclusions just by using common sense. Now, you guys, let me reiterate again a really tough concept for biofeedback practitioners to understand is that it's really important that you don't identify these issues as diagnostic. We don't want to say your nervous system is, not working or you have an issue with your nervous system. You can say there's stress in the energy field around your nervous system. There's stress in your energy field around the nervous system. That's the most important thing to remember because you never want to be construed as practicing medicine without a license. When I use the Genius, I actually do bring in all my naturopathic knowledge, but that's not necessary for everyone to do. You can still do a lot with frequency. That's your job as a biofeedback technician. You're basically removing stress in the energetic field. Do people like to have stress reduced in their life? Most people do. So that really resonates with them. And you will not be go far afield of what, the claims that you're making and so forth, if you're able to say, this is something that's in the energetic field. So that's what you really want to focus on. Okay, so then we look at this and we see an infection, and remember, it's just an energetic disturbance, vitamins, hormones, and essential oils. So let's go ahead to the infectious disturbance and see what comes up. Again, this is all energetic information. Kendra says, my system is updated but running very slow. Nothing since updating. I am updated and having voice issues but can still use the program. So Candy says, also anesthesia can add chemicals. That's a good one. Yeah, if you're having any issues, be sure to use the email that I had on the webinar before, and I'm just going to put it down in the chat area. So if you're having some issue, be sure to email rw@insighthealthapps.com, and then he can work on the issue with you and figure out what's going on. I've had several reports of voice and picture issues. So if you do, then also just let them know so that way they know how many people it's affecting. It'll be resolved very, very quickly, I'm sure. And then Deanna says the hospital food is full of pesticides. I think she's in India, but I wouldn't expect it to be any different. It's probably very, very similar. So then we do see a virus. It's really scary. It's easy to pick up some type of pathogen in the hospital. You have to be super, super careful and work on yourself a lot when you return from the hospital. That's really, really important. All right, so we've got that, and I don't see anything up here. And then let's go to vitamins. So again, I want you to think about everything as using it just as energy. So we haven't really talked about that as much. Like, consider that you are just giving these vitamins as a form of frequency. That's really what you're doing. That's what your job is as a technician. And I'm trying to say it in the way that it's never really a deficiency. If you think about the world of energy, it's that you're not in alignment with that particular frequency of vitamin B2. So what do? You put the frequency in the tray and you improve your measure of alignment, your measure of harmony with that particular energy. It's all just energy with the frequency of vitamin B2, with the frequency of vitamin E, with the frequency of biotin, with the frequency of vitamin K. I want to say this over and over again as we move into 2019 and we move into more of an age of light. It's very likely that your work as a biofeedback practitioner working with these subtle energies may be more precise, more powerful, and more long-lasting in terms of the impact on the body, rather than opening a bottle and taking a supplement. So I want you to really meditate on that, and I want you to really think about the implication of using frequency versus using the actual vitamin. Now, I don't want you to also misconstrue what I'm saying. I do think that we're still in three-dimensional form, and we still need vitamins and minerals. However, the very best place to get a vitamin and mineral is from food, from plant-based food, from plants. Plants are the very best place to get vitamins and minerals, whether it's kale or squash or tomatoes or, sweet potatoes or broccoli or all these things. This is the very best place, and I could go through, maybe we should do that sometime, all the nutrition, all the plants, and where the emphasis is in the different vitamins and minerals. So you want to combine plants with biofeedback. If they really need the nutrition, you could recommend certain foods. You could have a handout with certain foods that really emphasize these vitamins and minerals, and that would be fine. That would be a function as a wellness provider. You don't need a license or any type of accreditation to talk about how to stay well, thank God. The only problem, the ownership comes in, they own the thing that fixes the problem. So the medical world is all about fixing the sickness. If you start talking from the mountaintops about how to promote wellness, you can do that starting today, and I encourage you to do so. So I'm coming to more of a thesis that the very best thing that we can do to help people is to teach them to go on as much of a plant-based food plan that they are willing. And we want to combine plant-based with starch-based. I really do recommend the book, The Starch Solution by John McDougall. And even someone who knew about nutrition for something like 15 years before, reading The Starch Solution in about 2013, 2014 really changed my life. Being plant-based doesn't mean eating 2 things of kale and a couple of walnuts. Being plant-based means that you eat the majority of your calories through rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes. A huge part of my diet, you guys, is sweet potatoes. And there were populations around the world that lived majority calories on potatoes. Think of China on rice. Think of the different, Andes and all these indigenous populations, sweet potatoes. And that's the majority of your calories. You don't need very much else. You need a few vegetables here and there, a few green vegetables, just sprinkled with a few nuts and seeds, no oils. And that the concept is to combine this, when people are eating this type of diet, to combine it with the energies of biofeedback. Because I've been doing this a long time now, you guys. I graduated from naturopathic college in 2002. Before then, I had studied since about 1990 all the juicing and raw foods and Wigmore and colonics and everything. I've been doing this for a long time. And about 50 to 70% of things that people come to us with, heart disease, multiple sclerosis, Hashimoto's thyroid, chronic pain, diabetes, all of those things will get resolved when they go on a plant-based food plan, a starch-based food plan. They give up the chicken, fish, dairy, anything with a mother or a face. They give up the oils. They give up the eggs. And you know what? They get primarily better. They get better by a large margin, something like 50, 70, or even 90% better. So this is something I'm really going to be teaching the people who love biofeedback in the new year. If it's something you're interested in, then you'll want to jump in on the class of how to do this type of food plan and all the science that shows why, because people cannot wrap their heads around this without the science. So we're going to go through that. Because why are we giving people biofeedback to get better when we want to do the first thing that's going to help them the most? Then on top of that, we want to give them biofeedback. I understand not everybody's going to come to the table, but at least you can provide an invitation, because it's really about giving people the truth and all the important information. It's certainly something I'm going to be talking about a lot. Now, Could biofeedback catalyze someone to make a shift and a change? Yes, but at least we want to plant the seeds of having them, give them the knowledge, which they can then completely reject, but at least they can't unhear that recommendation. If they use a plant-based food plan the way that I am going to be explaining it and teaching you about it, and they combine it with biofeedback, there is not one person that you will not help significantly. Now notice I didn't say cure, but will they have better sleep? Will they have feel better? Will they breathe easier? Will their immune system go up? All of those things. So I really want to give you the best foundation for providing biofeedback to people, because providing biofeedback to someone who is a smoker and you give them the best biofeedback in the world, they step outside your office and they smoke, or I guess now they're going to vape, then have you really helped them? Now, it's not a judgment on your part. You can provide the help, and how they take it is going to be up to them. But let's at least provide them with an option that's going to be life-changing for them. It's really heartbreaking for me to see people continuing to, anybody who's sick, it's just like they're the smoker that's still smoking the cigarette, or the alcoholics that's still drinking the drink. If they have diabetes and they're still eating chicken, fish, and pork, they're not going to get better, you guys. And it's really time to say it as clear as day. They're just like, it's like helping somebody to clear up their lungs and sending them out and telling them, well, instead of having 6 cigarettes a day, just go ahead and have 4 cigarettes and let's see if we have some improvement. So I'm going to be talking about this more and telling you why it's true. Once you understand the science and the research, it's important, because people have just been indoctrinated, and let's just be honest, brainwashed since they've been young, since you've been a child, since you've been a little kid. So as I'm going through biofeedback, as I'm looking at things, I'm looking for hints and information. I see hormones. So you guys, one thing that I did this year is called the endocrine regeneration program. The endocrine regeneration program. You want to check that out on the website if you didn't take it live, because if you are past the age of 45 and you do not do something, whether it's biofeedback or bioreplacement hormones, you're going to suffer. So men suffer terribly with heart conditions because they have low testosterone. Women suffer terribly in postmenopause because they have low estrogen and low progesterone. So this is something that you must address. If not through natural medicine, then you want to address it through biofeedback. It's really, really important. So we want to do everything in our power to help people to understand how important hormonal balance is. So that's another thing that I talked about in that endocrine regeneration program. Now, you could do it as simple as make sure that for everybody that you're harmonizing their hormones, that you're running their hormones, and that will help a lot. So we saw that our hormones are out of balance. We saw that the vitamins were out of balance. We saw that there was a viral infection. There is a need for essential oils. I want to get to that in a moment. It's always good to look at minerals as well. And we want to look at some pain panels that are in the Natural Health Mastery 200. You guys, if you have anybody who's interested in the Genius, have them get on it now and get my packages that have 100 and 200 panels, because they're going away on January 1st. And the packages are going to include much smaller amounts of the testing panels. So it's going to be like 50 testing panels, and then different sets like hormones. It's going to be broken down to much smaller numbers. So now is the time for people to take action. If you've been thinking about getting the program, or you know someone who has, this is going to be the best time really to jump in there and get that. Let's just take a look at this really quickly. We've got the sulfur aspect. So this could be the need for glutathione when you need to detoxify, glutathione sulfate. So have sulfury vegetables like garlic and broccoli and other things that would kind of have that sulfury smell to them. Copper imbalance, not sure what that's about. Lithium, is really about brain function. Iron can be from a long-standing chronic gut infection, but postmenopausally could actually be an iron excess. And sometimes when people are chronically ill, they have an iron excess. We could talk more about that at another time, but just know that there may be too much iron. So again, biofeedback simply says that they are not in alignment or harmony with the particular thing, and that's what we want to correct. All right, so now we've got vanadium. Vanadium is about blood sugar. So vanadium is something about blood sugar usually. So we want to include that. Fluorine could be a needed mineral. This is something that's not in the United States, so I don't know if they have fluoridated water there. Strontium is about bone density, and so that's important as well. Okay, so we've looked at that. Let's go to some of the other panels and let's jump in. Oh, sorry, let's take a look at the aura. Now the aura is showing as low. So this could be an overall communication about depletion, just depletion in general. Okay, Penelope says people in public places use a lot of fragrance or plug-in or spray products, which are rarely real natural fragrance. They can really mess with the brain and create anxiety. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Dryer sheets and things like that drive me absolutely nuts. And who knows what their sort of the non-awareness level in hospitals is like at its highest apex in terms of using organic or essential oils or things like that, at least in most at least in most hospitals. What do you think of the pellets injected into your body? I think you're talking about hormone pellets. Anything synthetic, you guys, I would never recommend it. So if it's coming from your MD, you can pretty much forget about it. I wouldn't recommend it. So if sacred geometry is coming up, then go ahead and you could test it and include it. Anything that's in blue that comes up means usually the energy field is asking for that, calling for it. You don't see a lot of red, which often means more of a depleted state in general. Let's go ahead and test the libraries, and we want to look at pain reduction and I didn't do spinal energy. We want to go back and do that because it's all about back surgery. So let's jump back. Now, spinal energy didn't really come up, which is kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and look at the spinal energy panel. Let's see where it was there. Oh, no, I missed it, right? There is. So this is 300. So that's really interesting that it was like a back surgery, but then it's not really coming up as significant. Although when we test it, it comes up as very significant. C1, so in the neck, T12, T1, T2, sacral. It's kind of all over the map, isn't it? Whew, C7, L5, C4. So a lot of stuff in the neck. Really important to include this. I would include every single one. It's almost every vertebra, all the way up to 200. I mean, that's just, I've never seen anything like this. That's amazing. So really concerning. The back is where the action is, you guys. I mean, if stretching or yoga, anything she can do when she's more stabilized to heal. I don't know what the origin of all of this is, but back in general is feeling unsupported in life. So I don't know if there's an aspect to that. Feeling unsupported in some way is usually back issues or trying to find the support in life. So that's just one, aspect of it. Okay, I'm trying to figure out more information. Stuff I read. She had a major back surgery, all went well. And it's really sad, you guys, because just like heart disease, which I talked about in the last class, back surgery is something that should never have to happen. So stretching, eating a plant-based food plan, doing just minimal amounts of yoga. It's really important to keep the spine strengthened and to keep it mobile. That's really, really important. Even if you just stretch down, touch your toes, and do some back extensions today, do some side bends. Anything that can keep your back strong and mobilized is really important. So it says her muscles have to get strong now after the back surgery. She has to learn to walk now on her own. Pain is still quite a lot. So this pain is still quite a lot. You can use the pain panels or you can use the inflammation panels, but you can also use the Nogiers. So please refer to my mastery guide and go and study the Nogier frequencies, because a lot of them have to do with reducing pain, reducing inflammation. So if you didn't have any of the panels, you could use the Nogiers. Also, when someone's in pain, use the emotions. Okay, so there's a lot of emotional stuff that probably built up to having the surgery, doing the surgery, post-surgery, all a lot of emotional stuff. So remember to use emotions is another idea. And look, the emotions are 724, so that actually was one of the red ones. Loathing, rage, pity, curiosity, annoyance kind of all make sense of how one might feel. Now, one thing that we got when I was in naturopathic college, if you guys don't know, I am a naturopathic doctor, but that doesn't mean that I got my certificate through the mail or did an online course of study. I did 4 solid back-to-back years going to school from 8 in the morning till 5 or more at night, and I did clinical rotations. So then I took my boards, we learned to do physical examinations and review labs and so forth. It's called a naturopathic doctor. And when I was in school, we learned from a lot of other doctors, both MDs and naturopathic doctors. And one thing that we learned in our orthopedic classes was that they revealed that even doctors who do back surgery would never get back surgery because of the fact that it doesn't really heal anything in the long term, because the problem is really lifestyle and strengthening your own back and making sure that you get nutrition and energy into the spine and hydration, and the potential serious complications that come. We know that any particular cut results in an interference field. So when you cut into the body, it has an implication that should be recognized. We're probably working with very Neanderthal, outdated practices of actually cutting into the body where we could provide a similar effect with frequency. So I think we're at the really a wonderful year coming up in terms of the change of thinking and the mass awareness of really how to help people. So down at the bottom, I think I put some things in: despair, happiness, hostility, grief, empathy, angst, love. When you see love as something on the end, low or high, what it has to do with is being disconnected from that positive emotion. So that's what that is about. Karen says, thank you, Karen, so much for the comments. Strontium showing lately with excess radiation to bones and reactors increase from Fukushima. It is quite confusing because in the naturopathic journals, they actually have touted strontium as an important supplement for bone density. So you could also include the flower essences, anything that would help emotionally. We're going to get to oil on point also, so that's another one. Do you ever use the quick balance as a significant panel as opposed to the quick zap? Can you talk about the difference? Oh, yes. Let me talk about the difference, you guys, and I'll gather these up and then we'll look at them in Progressive Insights. You guys, quick balance has been a source of confusion. It was meant to be an amazing adjunct to the program. We call it the healer's balancer. What the quick balance does is it instantly gathers up. Let's let that dissolve there and look at the bottom. At the bottom of your device, it will say, if you can't see it on this one, it'll say quick balance. The quick balance means that every single high and low for the entire program is then placed into the quick balance and then instantly harmonized the moment that you hit the button. The timer for the quick balance is on the right side of the screen here. You can go up and down. This should have been built a little better on the user interface, but you can go up and down here, and this is the timer for the quick balance. So when you tap the quick balance here, it's now harmonizing for 2 minutes as indicated by the yellow ball over here. We don't get the sound. It has to do with the webinar, so we don't get the tones, but of course you would be hearing the tones. And this is going to harmonize for 2 minutes. We're not going to run the whole 2 minutes, but it's every red and every blue in the entire program is now being harmonized. So that means that you don't have to do anything, but I don't believe you get the precision or the working through of the program. It's sort of a bit of a mishmash. And so we call this the healer's balance. When you're in between clients and you need to harmonize yourself, tap the quick balance because you don't really have time, right? And often the brain power to work on yourself. There's an interesting idea that we have only a certain amount of brain power to make decisions throughout the day. So you guys remember that Mark Zuckerberg has said that, have you noticed he wears the same clothes every day? He says he wears the same clothes every day because the decision power that he would have to use, even to figure out, well, should I wear these pants, should I wear these pants, will actually detract from, you only have a limited number of iterations where your brain can choose, pick and choose, pick and choose, pick and choose, lunch, what to wear, where to do this, how to do this. And so by the time you get to your work, you're sort of out of those iterations. You sort of hit your limitation by the end of the day. So if you can limit that by using the quick balance in between sessions for yourself, you'll have more brain power, more decision-making power when you're thinking about your clients' cases. That was a good question. Okay, so being a person with back problems for over 40 years and spending a good time at the chiropractors when using the Genius, I figured out that for me, says Dennis, in the spinal energy, the red ones are unhappy, but the blue ones are always out of alignment. Not usually the red ones. Oh, I gotcha. So he's saying that when he goes to the chiropractor, the ones that come up in blue on the Genius are the ones that are truly out of alignment. So that's a really interesting observation. I love it. Okay, so let's just go back to the libraries now, and we're going to jump in. And so some of the things you can do when someone is in pain is you can look at the inflammation series of libraries. So if we go here, we can see inflammation assessment, solutions, solutions balance, solution herbs, solution spices, and you can check any of these. Now in the new version, these will all be analyzed at one time. So, but I always think it's useful to go through them and sort of look and review what comes up. So we've got fungus, bacteria, oxidative stress. So the oxidative stress is like emotional stress, physical stress, being exposed to toxic chemicals cause oxidative stress. Now in the new year, I'm going to be talking about a lot of new topics, and I'm going to be looking at the possibilities of using hydrogen. And we're going to talk about using hydrogen for oxidative stress in the new year, so stay tuned for that. We do definitely have something, even these infections could be causing the oxidative stress. So one thing that we have found from looking at this over the past 20 minutes that we've been looking at it is there's an infection. There are so many infections coming through. And when you see so many infections, fungus, bacteria, virus, we should also conclude, scratching our head a little bit, oh, maybe there's something going on with the immune system. It appears that the immune system is quite depleted. So we want to think about that and look at it. We've got EMF exposure. That is something that has been in the forefront of my mind about hospitals. The poor person that is in that bed, unfortunately, like there's so many machines clattering away and you've got all types of irradiation and so on and so forth. So EMF could be in the home. It could have been from when they were in the hospital. Environmental allergies. And I would ask if there's a root canal, and then I would stop right here. So anything below 600, I don't consider that to be reactive or something we need to consider. Then I go down to the bottom, vaccination effects. Just a huge conversation we could have about the long term. This isn't something that may affect you right at the moment. Just like when we think about autism, we think of children being affected the next day, and that's absolutely true. But this can also be something that happens 20, 40, 50 years later, decades later, the vaccination effects. Surgical implants. So I don't know what happened during the back surgery. Was there some type of these are things you want to see if you can avoid. If you can ever avoid anything being inserted into the body, particularly metal, in a surgical procedure. So something like a mesh, a stent, a titanium screw. None of these things are ever going to be truly compatible with the body. So while people will survive, and it's called surgical steel and it's non-reactive, you guys, we weren't really meant to be interacting with metals. That's not really our thing. So if we can avoid it, it's one less stress on the system. Now, she didn't say that there was any type of a screw or pin that I know about, and I don't really know why the surgery was done. I assume that there was a serious problem with one of the vertebrae, maybe not a herniation, but the other thing. So yeah, there was probably some serious vertebral issues. Okay. Question, I thought the quick balance happened in each panel, not just the system overview. So to reiterate, a quick balance here is not just for one, it's for the entire program. So it takes everything in the program and puts it into the tray. Sometimes if the aura looks murky after extensive work, I will go back to the system overview and quick balance to help to clean up the aura. You know, that might work, but it's doing it in the entire program, not just the. I'm surprised you guys were able to hear me today because it's got the internal speakers on. Oh, now it's not doing anything. I shouldn't have said anything because then the audio went to degraded. So can you guys hear me? Let me know. It looks like it's fading in and out. Guys, do a quick sound check for me because I think the connection is sort of fading in and out. Okay. So questions. Do we ask questions here? Because you mentioned in a mail address in your invitation, I never got any answer using this mail address. Can you clarify? Is there a way to see the questions of the participants? That's what I've been reading the entire time, Marie. Sorry. Thomas Cowan has a wonderful new book on vaccinations. Okay, we'll definitely check it out. Raindrop, that's true, Karen, that's a good point. So Brenda, I guess if you're watching this recording, do you know about raindrop therapy? Let us know if you do. Another thing that you can do is there's also the pain panels. So I'll go back to reading your comments in just a moment. The pain panels, you guys. So pain, there's a couple of different things for pain relief as well. So use the pain panels. They come in your Natural Health Mastery 200. Okay, so the little phased out, I guess. In France, they do not propose other solution but titanium implants because they say the material is too fragile and it breaks. Right, and they don't actually in the United States either. What I'm saying is if there's any way that you can avoid a procedure which will require a pin, and sometimes you can't. Okay, now that's interesting, spinal nerve compression. So she's still experiencing spinal nerve compression despite the surgery, and that's, you guys, that's the problem for any of these big procedures. They make the person, and the person who is recommending it to you is in some way a salesperson, especially they're selling a I don't know what the implication, I don't know if this is something that came from an injury, but that said, you want to do, first do no harm. Do every lowest amount of impact and invasive procedure first, I guess is the message there. Lactic acid, magnesium deficiency, nerve compression. Arachidonic acid is an inflammatory substance created usually from meat consumption, and omega-6. So sunflower, safflower, that type of thing will create arachidonic acid. And we can look at the location. Let's see what comes up here. Got a headache, got mild back pain, so maybe the pain relievers are helping. And then we've got some plantar fasciitis. Now, if there are foot issues are going to lead to back issues are going to lead to foot issues. So we want to make sure that we get everything resolved, right? And address everything, not just the back, but what else is going on. That's really important. There's probably so much back surgery that could be saved if you just go to see a chiropractor, right? You guys are probably aware of that, or an acupuncturist. So nerve healing and brain perception of signals. So pain itself, they say pain is the body's request for oxygen. But of course we know that the oxygen is needed when there's been a surgical procedure to go in there and really heal. So what we can do is we can down-regulate some of the pain by reducing the brain's perception of the signals. That really is what painkillers do, is they remove your perception of the pain. So the brain signals you to experience pain in order to protect you. So when you touch a hot stove, the only thing that's going to get you to pull that hand away is that you get an emergency signal that says, if you continue to touch the hot stove, then you will have injury. And so this pain signal is given to you so that you will protect yourself. But sometimes we actually have to turn the pain signal off because we know why the pain is there. It's from the surgery and so forth. We don't need to keep being reminded. So we could use this brain perception of signals in order to down-regulate through frequency the pain that they're experiencing. Nerve balance, balancing the nerves, that's a good idea. And then we also have, do we do this one? Pain resolution, pain solutions. So what would be the best thing? Then we don't have to give all of these things. We can run them as frequency. So this is helps to reduce inflammation, nattokinase. Of course, essential oils, and Karen recommended particularly the raindrop, which goes down the spine with the oregano and some of the other wonderful, really powerful essential oils that Young Living has. Dynorphin A, this is going to be chemicals in the brain and how they are perceiving and translating pain. We've got Kella, that's an herb that reduces inflammation. Endorphins, that often the endorphins come up. So if you've ever known like a woman who's giving birth or somebody who's in intense pain, at the same time the pain signals are being generated, tons of dopamine are being put out. So you almost have this intense pain coupled with a euphoria in order to compensate and deal with the pain. So those endorphins can help. Turmeric is a wonderful anti-inflammatory. Eucalyptus, you can see the energy field is asking for all of these interventions. Devil's Claw is another one that helps to reduce inflammation, can help to reduce pain. Some of these work in the same way that aspirin does, like white willow bark was the thing that aspirin was born from. It's not something we want to take a lot of because it can cause stomach bleeding in the same way that aspirin does. But if you need it temporarily, you could use it, all these things. So I think that if Brenda had these particular panels, they would be very, very helpful to her. We have 109 items down in the tray, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've been gathering a lot of information. Okay, and Karen says the pain, the use of peppermint, but must apply the hot, wet towels to decrease, otherwise not as effective. Each separate panel has the option to do a quick balance. It's quite a few updates ago. So Penelope continues to correct me. And so Penelope, why don't we just go ahead and check with Ryan on that? My understanding is that the quick balance does the highs and the lows of the entire program. If it's changed, I'm gently skeptical of that. So we'll put it to the big guy and see what a result that we have, and perhaps I will be duly corrected on this. Perhaps it's not right, and I guess we'll find out. We really want to get clarification because sometimes we don't get the right clarification, but we'll absolutely work on that and find out. Let's go ahead and choose the Oil on Point panel from Carolyn Mine and go ahead and take a look at that. So if you don't have this panel, it's something that we're continuing to develop. You could do an entire session just using the Oil on Point. By the way, the panel has been renamed to Young Living Oil on Point. So we have Young Living, where's the other one? Young Living Oil, Young Living, I think I didn't get enough sleep last night. Okay, so we have the Young Living Oil on Point affirmations. We know about that. Young Living essential oil blends, Young Living oils. That doesn't seem to be here for some reason. Maybe I didn't sync my system. Oil on Point. Let's try this one. Okay, I think that's the problem is I didn't sync my system. If you log out and log back in, you may find the oil on point. So under Young Living. So just look for that. This name has changed in the update from Carolyn Mine releasing emotional patterns to the Young Living. All right, so now what I want to show you is a form that I'm working on for this. So let me just show you this, and I'm going to get this to everybody who has the Oil on Point panel. Exit out of this. And I'm creating a worksheet for you. Many people on here today have this panel. So what you want to do, I'm going to have to go grab the book, is that every time you work on an oil on point, you can record it here if you do a 1-minute balancing on it, and you can record the emotions that you included and other frequencies. I guess I have to make this a little bigger. So the idea is that the emotions that come down from the oil on point are going to tell a story, and then you can actually put the recurring emotions down here and then look up the affirmations that go with that particular emotion. So let's go ahead and let's pull these down into the tray, and then we'll have a lot to work with. So, you know, the part of the genius that you're working with for the longest amount of time is when you're searching for things. But if you're an adept practitioner, you really know that this is part of the process of healing. It's part of the process of discovery. And the funny thing is that even when you work on someone long distance and they're not aware, because they've given their permission to be worked on, they're still being worked on in this moment. Like they're getting the benefit of your increased level of awareness as you unwind the case. It's a mysterious thing. It has to do with the quantum field. So there's a lot of power in sort of your mental attention to the case and sort of understanding it at a deeper level. Let's go from there and let's now see what comes up at the very, very top here. All right, so we've got prolactin, which is really weird. That is means that there's something going on. There's an imbalance in the hypothalamic pituitary axis. So there's something going on there that could be from adrenal stress. Then we've got the strontium, right? That's really odd too. So that's either the excess that Karen talked about, or perhaps it's a deficiency for the bones. Oxidative stress, we're not surprised to see that. And then if you give me one moment here, I'm going to just grab that other book. So release on the Young Living Large Intestine point. So grab your Carolyn Mine book. I'm going to grab mine and I will be just right back in 12 seconds. Okay, guys? Okay, so I'm back. So then you would go to the, you want to go to the essential oils that begin on Carolyn's book around page 62. And then you would just look up release. So there's so many of them. There's well over 250. Release on the large intestine. So release on the large intestine is fear of success. So then on your worksheet, I'm trying to figure out a way that I can get you guys fillable worksheets, is you would write on here, fear of success. And what's going to happen as you begin to run these points down the list is you're going to see a pattern of all the emotions that come up. The way that we've been developing this technique is to do 1-minute balancings. And you can include other things that seem highly relevant. For example, the prolactin, the strontium, and the oxidative stress seem very, very important. It's interesting, calcitonin is a hormone that's used for laying down bone. I'm going to include all of these because the anandamide is a really good neurotransmitter that can help to relieve pain, help the person feel better. So let's go ahead and run that for just 1 minute. And so I don't know if Chantel joined us today. Chantel, if you're there, maybe let us know. I'm trying to see who is here attending today, and I don't see her. So I think we could work on her next week. when she's with us. Warm welcome to everybody who's joining us today. Ronnie, Sharon from Eugene, so good to have you here. Stephanie's joining us from Colorado. Pat from Colorado, I love our Colorado peeps. Irina's here. Irina, welcome. Thank you for being here. Edna from, I want to say upstate New York. I think that's right. Candy is here. Dan, hey Dan, thanks for being on the class today. Dennis is here, one of our longtime users of the Genius. And Elfie is here, and Susan, warm welcome, and our wonderful channeler and somebody who did so great on the summit, talking about the elixirs. Tracy is here. So if you haven't seen Tracy's talk, go to Energy Medicine Life on Facebook and see Tracy's incredible talk about creating elixirs with the Genius frequencies. Okay, we're going to go back to the aura and take a peek. And go ahead and see, this was the before picture, which didn't look bad. Actually looked okay, so I assume that she's probably being worked on by her daughter. There's a little bit, that pink that's probably going to go away is pain and sort of junky, gunky stuff. But a lot of this looks really good. Looks like she's being worked on. Okay, interesting change there. So she's pulling in a lot of healing energy. And then there's, I would say this is nervous system, brain, some type of physical issue. It's interesting how often the brain, of course, is affected and needs to be addressed in, surgical issues, because when you think about it, of course, it's a huge shock to the nervous system. I did just take a picture of that, but I'm impulsively going to do it again. Okay, so let's now go and we're going to drill this down again. So the first one was fear of success. So that's interesting, right? Fear of success. We don't know where the fear of success was, in the surgery, in the healing process, in somewhere in one's career. We don't really know what that's about, but it's interesting that it came up. So fear of success, maybe in the healing process. Okay, then we've got lavender by Young Living on the skin point. We've got hornbeam, estrone, that estrogen, that low estrogen will make you more susceptible to the diseases of old age. So however you can begin to use black cohosh, use frequency, use my endocrine regeneration frequencies, you want to keep the proper estrogen balance or alignment flowing in your system after 45 and after for life. Contempt, I find all of these to be very important. I just want to see if there's anything else. The root canal, nattokinase, I think all of these we need to include for 1 minute. So let's do that, and then let's look at lavender. So then we go to the actual book, right? And I'm looking now on page 66. Lavender on the skin point is criticism. So then we start to kind of, it's like piling up some blocks, right? Or pieces of the puzzle maybe. So now we've got fear of success and criticism. And if the person is there, we begin to ask them, how do these things fit together for you? Do any of them resonate? Because we're really trying to also tell the emotional story of the person, because everything has an emotional reason. The reason that her back went out is related to some deep emotional life lesson that she's trying to understand. And the faster that she understands it, the more information we can provide, it's very likely the faster she will heal. Now, it's interesting that the flower essence came up. So now you can start to get very multi-layered in using your oil on point and the flower essence and see how they all fit together. So the emotions that we had initially, fear of success and criticism. Hornbeam is tiredness at the thought of doing something. For those who feel that they have not enough sufficient strength mentally or physically to carry the burden of life, back issues. The affairs of every day seem too much for them to accomplish, though they generally succeed in fulfilling their task. For those who believe that some part of mind and body needs to be strengthened before they can easily fulfill their work. And she took that in very, very quickly at 57%. So you see, if you get the right frequencies, you have a wonderful and amazing result. They take it all in very, very quickly. And oak also suggests something about exhaustion. So oak is, those who are struggling and fighting to get well in connection with the affairs of their daily life. I mean, do hornbeam and oak, could they fit any better for someone who's just had a surgery and is trying to recover? So it really interesting about the hornbeam and the oak. So we've got those, and then we can go back and again, you check the aura. How is the aura shifting and changing? What is the communication there? People have been asking, of course, about these horizontal lines. When you see horizontal lines in any area, this is often an area where they're trying to release something, and they're in the process of starting to release it. And you often see that energy open up more and more over time. Marie asks, when we're running the Carolyn Mind Library, how many lines do we select in the highs and lows to process later in the main hold tray? That's a very good, I love the detail of that question. So the best thing to do is the top 10 and the bottom 10, but that's not a hard and fast rule because there's a lot of them that come up. So it's really about your intuition. If you want to put 15 highs and 15 lows, that's perfectly fine. The minimum would be 10. The top 10 and the bottom 10. The 10 in red at the top and the 10 in blue, the 10 all the way at the bottom. If then you feel called to include more, the wider the net that you really throw out, really the better the result, because Progressive Insights has to retest all of those in that tighter algorithm, and so you tend to get the cream of the crop. The really, really important frequencies percolate up, so there's no problem in doing more than 10, okay? Now, what's happened here is we're calling in higher energies. We are more at a place of healing because you're seeing those higher chakra colors start to appear, the purples and the blues. You're seeing everything become more symmetrical. There's some issue going on down at the bottom here. This is like the physical issue, the gray, some here. And then this energy, which we saw previously, is now beginning to open up. So let's take a look at the progression so far. Let me just turn this off for 1 second so I can grab the pictures. So we've got, this is where we started. Hang on. Started here. Wait, did we start there? That was her picture. I guess it is. And then we went to here, right? So this is something going on in her brain nervous system. And then the important communication is, did I not take a picture of the other one? Okay, let's go back to the original so we can see. And I need to take a picture of that one too. My brain is definitely on holiday today. So there we go. All right, so then we can see the opening. So the significance of this is we saw that dot before above, now it's starting to open and dissipate. So this is the release that's going on. All right, so now we go once again, we have 129 items. So out of 129 items, what now percolates to the top is addressing the nervous system. Lyme on lung is really interesting, comes up very, very often, and what Kelly associates it with is about an underlying virus. But what it has to do with in terms of Carolyn Mine is Lyme, this is L-I-M-E, not L-Y-M-E. Lyme, the essential oil on the lung, is unmotivated. Unmotivated is the emotion. So far we've had fear of success, criticism, and unmotivated. Now I think the unmotivated is more related to this issue around the surgery, right? Feeling totally exhausted. So this is the overlying, the overlaying theme is like she needs everything around her to get rest. That's what she needs. The support is that's the most important thing, is that she has, good sleep at night, that she does things that she enjoys, anything being around family, whatever it is, in order to rest the spirit, because everything that's coming through is like exhaustion. I'm too tired, I can't do it, like being so overwhelmed, being so exhausted. Any adrenal support, even just running the adrenal frequencies from the Genius, that would be a really good idea. Any of the essential oils that you think about for adrenal rejuvenation would be helpful. White willow bark is great because it's really good for reducing inflammation, helping to reduce pain, specifically short-term pain. That's what you want to use white willow bark for. Then we've got purification. Now, interesting that they're both on the lung point. That's fascinating. So something about the lungs. Lungs is the relationship with the outer world, your relationships that you have with other people, because the lungs, if you think about it, that's the mucosa that is connected to the outside world. It's how you connect to the outside world. So this one, and purification having to do with cleansing. We saw all the chemical sensitivities that she's trying to clear out. So maybe some juices would be a good idea. Some green juices, perhaps some carrot juice would be really called for. Then purification on the lung is fear of rejection. So we've got a lot of fear stuff here. these are really like kind of interesting. Fear of success, criticism, unmotivated, and fear of rejection. It's interesting how they all go together. I guess the fear of success must be about the healing process. Criticism, maybe criticizing others, or self-criticism. Why did I let myself, get into this pickle? Unmotivated, just the exhaustion, the adrenal exhaustion. Fear of rejection. Maybe people won't love me if I can't heal this. I'm not really sure. So I'm just spitballing those. And we've got L3, so that's the back. I wonder where the back surgery was. Vaccination effects. God only knows what you go into the hospital and they say, sign this, sign this, sign this, sign this. God only knows what you have to sort of put up with. Hopefully we'll get more natural hospitals. There's one more that I want to look at, which is the Panaway, also one for good muscle relaxing and pain relief. Panaway on the muscle point. Now, we don't usually use 3 oils on point, but that seems really important to include. So I want to include it there. And again, Panaway on the muscle is exhaustion. So whatever we can do to provide adrenal support through herbs, through just creating the environment, and it seems to be coupled with the need to detoxify and nourish. So it's interesting, you get these consistent messages. Somebody wrote to me the other day from, I think, the Netherlands and said, oh, I tried the Genius. Now, of course, they didn't ask for a demonstration. I told them they could, and they said everything just seemed random. It didn't seem organized at all. It just seemed to be random and inconsistent. I said, well, please let me meet with you. So if you ever have that issue with somebody who's interested, please have them do a personal demonstration with me. I know that everybody on here knows that the information is consistent. It's spot on. I've done this now for 6 years, and it actually blows me away at how consistent the information is. So usually it's just a matter of that they don't understand the basic concepts. And any person who's interested can come, and work with me personally. We always have time to give people a personal demonstration or talk to them. So, and anybody can call us. It's so rare that you can actually call someplace and actually talk with someone personally, and so people are often amazed that either myself or Ryan will often just answer the phone ourselves. So people are welcome to call at any time to get assistance and clarification. Okay, so wonderful. So let's just do one more. Let's go ahead and look at the aura. And then I hope I'll send you off on your way on the holiday. Next week, we're meeting at the same time. It'll be New Year's Eve, and we'll be meeting at the same time next week, which is the 9 o'clock hour. And then in the new year, we'll be meeting in the 10 o'clock hour. So make sure to mark your calendars for that new timing. Okay, well, I think it's a little hard to know if that little ball is sort of the continuation in here, or if this is something new. I think it's probably the same, sort of getting some transformation and transmutation of all of this. Often when we have something coming in, this is like divine intervention, but this seems to be the continuation of what we've seen thus far. So let's go ahead and take a peek at our full range of things that we've done here. So let me just go to the photos and pull that up and start right at the beginning. So let's go ahead and look at that. This is the first one, so some pain and physical stuff going on here. Then we saw this interesting thing having to do with brain, nervous system, maybe emotions, how she's feeling. And so sort of just right there, we're seeing it. So we want to see this move and shift, right? Then we go to here, and of course the green being a lot of healing energy. No, that's not another one. Then we went here, so it's sort of opening up the energy, and we're seeing a lot more pink, this very high vibrational colors. It's all about healing. We still have some stuff here and here. Then we're here, so this is the one we're just doing now. So more clearing here, more symmetry, which is good. A little bit of this, which reminds me of maybe the thing that was over here initially in pink. So this could be digestive, liver, something going on here. And then this may be more continuation. We would have expected it to clear up and broken up more, but sometimes when people are processing stuff, they go more deeply into it and then come back out of it. So very, very interesting. So, I think that one thing that's progressed over time is our use of this sort of back and forth dance with the aura. So we sort of know where we are. You're not really able to turn to your client and say, are you better now? That doesn't really happen. It takes a while for the things, for everything to assimilate, for the person to really get the frequencies. And so we need that feedback from the aura in order to really understand it. So we've got fungus, depression. I think all of these are important. Scleranthus is it one of the flower essences? Yes, it is. Okay. So then we've got this oil on point we want to look at. Environmental allergies, magnesium deficiency, virus, happiness, sacral. Let's include the sacral energy, right, because it's the back. But the other ones I think were good. We just want to include the very, very top for the 1 minute. We don't, but if your intuition draws you to include other things, then by all means do. Now, the last one we're doing here is energy on the yeast umbilicus point. Isolation, really interesting. Last emotion, isolation, feeling cut off. So that's, that's a very, very interesting one. It's really important if you have the person there and you can bring that up to them and just allow them to emote and say, yes, I did feel disconnected. I did feel isolated. I want to feel reconnected. And scleranthus is inability to choose between alternatives. Those who suffer much from being unable to decide between two things, the first seeming right and then the other. They are usually quiet people and bear their difficulty alone. There's the match with the isolation. And they are not inclined to discuss it with others. So that goes really hand in hand with the depression and the isolation. I mean, wow, talk about consistency. So this would be a wonderful point, to be able to turn to the client and, give them comfort and tell them they're not alone. They're totally connected. We're here for you. We want to help you, want to be here for you. Remember remember Dr. Masaru work. And of course, many of you remember writing the word love on water, right? This is a wonderful thing that all of us biofeedback practitioners are very aware of. Is you write love on the water, you get the perfect crystal. But remember, when you yell at the water, you get a very weird pattern. But remember, what was the worst, most incoherent pattern that you saw in the hidden messages in water? It was the water that was ignored. The water that was ignored was the most incoherent sort of globule mess that you see. The pattern that looked the most disturbing was the oil that was ignored. So being isolated or feeling left out or not feeling a part is a very, very heavy thing for the system. So the more that we can let people know they are cared for, they are loved, they are part, is incredibly important and valuable. It's interesting down here, you usually don't see such a break in the numbers. These are usually very, very close. And it's interesting that harmony at 37% is low. There aren't really any hard and fast definitions of these, but it would be interesting to just sort of contemplate, why would harmony be out? So harmony is music, harmony is feeling like connected with other people, part of the total landscape. So maybe that is also related to this. So we may have hit like a very core issue. All right, so let's do one more look at the aura and then we'll wrap up for today. Any final questions? If you have any final questions, if you're having any issue with the voice or the picture, be sure to send a message to rw@insighthealthapps.com, rw@insighthealthapps.com. I put that down in the chat area. And then we'll be back next week, same time. So this is kind of interesting. It's hard to say. It almost reminds me of that neutral kind of clearing the deck thing that we talk about. There is some physical stuff going on here. This kind of has like a wound kind of interpretation to it. And then there's more clearing going on here. I'm not really sure. This to me is like brain and nervous system clearing going on. So that's a good, been a good progression. So I'm here next week. If you have any questions or you have anybody who's interested in the genius, please have them go to my website, awakentotalhealth.com. That's awakentotalhealth.com. And remember that you can also go to see, if you have not seen the summit, be sure to go to Facebook and join the group Energy Medicine Life. Energy Medicine Life is our Facebook group there. And you can see all of the summits, and many, many thanks to everybody. Deanna, Tracy, who was part of the summit, I so greatly, greatly appreciate it. And the summit has been viewed well over 1,000 times by people. So people are really looking at it and learning from it. And I'm getting lots of great feedback because people who are using the genius are getting amazing results. So don't hesitate to let your affiliates know that we do have some holiday specials. This is a really great time to get the genius. Make sure that you inspire them to take action before the end of the year so they can get the most panels and get the genius at the 2018 price, because prices are going up by about $150 across the board. So make sure that they jump in there, and then there won't be as many panels offered in the packages. So it's a really, really great time to get in there. Well, I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, a very happy holiday. I'm sending you much love. I just really can't thank you enough for what each and every one of you do for the community and for people around you. So I'm really tipping my hat to you and sending you much love and appreciation today. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday everywhere. Everyone, have a wonderful holiday, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and be well. Bye-bye for now.